And tonight we have something really good, a hot topic in the news this week's been charged with crime. This is a show where I try to educate real stories. Thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. We have another very interesting story to tell you tonight. It's a serious story, one in which a mother, Linda Chapman, is going to explain how her son, who was only 17, was sentenced to life in prison. He's been in prison for 18 years now, and he doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know where to turn. And as you know, if you've been watching the show for the last year and a half that I've been producing it, we're here to talk about people who don't know what to do when their children are trapped in the criminal justice system. We need to have a community discussion. We need to understand our rights. We need to understand the consequences of our actions. And we need to see a show from both sides. I mean, we need to see the point of view of both sides, both the complaining witness in a case and the defendant and the defendant's family. I also want you to know that there's two sides of a story and there are other people on the other side. Here's a mother who loves her son. She's done everything she can to support him. She knows he did wrong, but I want you to decide, do you think that the punishment was too harsh? Do you think the punishment fit the crime? What do we do in society to prevent crimes, to understand our rights? And we're going to explore all the avenues tonight. So let us talk for about 15 or 20 minutes to explain to you the predicament that Linda Chapman finds herself in. And you call in and tell us your opinion. So Linda, let's just get right into it. Your son was 17.
Yes.
He was charged with sexual assault, which the street word is rape, and aggravated robbery. Of a lady. He was 17 and she was 24. He's black, she's white. And before we get into the dialogue and the lessons learned, let's just talk about the facts of the case. I think it's easier to talk about it from the complainant's standpoint. Most people will call her the victim. I'll say complainant because that's the legal term. The complainant's standpoint. And then let's also talk about it from your son's point of view. So let's talk about what she, as you know of it, because I know you never read her statement or heard her testify because she didn't have to testify. Let me also add, viewers, one of the things that's interesting about this case was there was no trial. Ms. Chapman, not having much money, being a single mother, hired a lawyer that was inexperienced, although the lawyer said that she had done 50 to 75 criminal cases. The mom thought that hiring an inexperienced lawyer was better than a court-appointed lawyer, and the lawyer chose not to go to trial. She pled guilty to former Judge Ted Poe in the 228th District Court. Now it's occupied by the Honorable Mark Carter. Well, the lawyer pled this 17-year-old guilty to aggravated assault, aggravated sexual assault, and aggravated robbery, and basically fell on the mercy of the court. The legal term is a pre-sentence investigation report, and that is where the probation officer assigned to the court goes and does a social background check of the child, finds out all of their school records, basically tries to find everything bad they can find about them so they can put it into the report to give to the judge. And then the defense lawyer then is supposed to go and find out everything good they can find out about the defendant and have a hearing that's just a punishment hearing because the defendant is pleading guilty. Linda Chapman called me to ask me if there was anything that could be done. In a criminal case, you go to trial, if you go to trial, then there's an appeal, and then there's a writ, but you can only file one writ. I've looked up her son's case. He's filed 2 writs. So he's already filed 1 more than the law allows in state court. So she's exploring her options. There are maybe a few other options available to her, which is to possibly, if the timeline has not been exhausted, to go to the federal system. But we're not going to have that discussion tonight. We're going to deal with the facts of the case and where we go from here. All right, so Linda, go ahead and talk about the case and tell us what the lady said your son did to her.
What was said at the hearing was that he came to her apartment, he tied her up, he took off her clothes, and he left her in a bathroom, and he took her keys to her car, he took her purse, and some jewelry. And that's what was said at the hearing that he did.
Now, one of the things that's interesting about this that you told me off camera was that he had actually, how did he pick her? Tell the viewers about how he selected her and their interaction before he tied her up, or, you know, she said what happened. Tell us what.
Well, he was looking to take someone's car because he said that he was tired of catching 3 buses to school. And so he had saw her previously. He saw where she lived, where she had went from her car to her apartment. And so he went to her apartment and said that I had sent him there because we had just moved into the neighborhood, and he wanted to find out where the teenagers hung out at. And so he was asking her if she could provide him with that information. What he said was that he wanted to have a story to tell that his friends had to tell because he was the nerd in his group, and he wanted a story to tell. And so
give us a little background about that. You told me off camera how you and his dad were not together. You lived in Detroit, the dad lived in California. And tell us a little bit about his growing up that made him have to always feel like he needed to fit in, because he wasn't raised in an environment of consistency.
Well, we shared him each year. So one year he was in Detroit, one year he was in LA. And so he was back and forth and back and forth. So every single year he started a new school. So he told me that he learned how to get in with the popular crowd because the popular crowd would keep him covered and safe.
Okay, so that's an unusual background for a child to have when you live in Detroit one year, say like you're in the 6th grade, and then the 7th grade you're in Los Angeles, then the 8th grade you're in Detroit, then the 9th grade you're in Los Angeles. That's very unusual. And so at what point in grade did he come to Houston?
I believe he was in the 10th grade when we first came to Houston. And when he first came, I had gotten remarried, and we lived in one area, and then we moved like 3 different times, so he had to change school even when he came here. And so the last school that he was at, he was in his senior year, and he refused to change schools again because he wanted to finish out in that school in high school.
So that's why he had to take the 3 buses?
We had moved, and he had to take 3 buses to school.
And his excuse for doing this to his mom, or reasoning, was he wanted to fit in. And that sounds so immature, but keep in mind this crime occurred 2 months after his 17th birthday. So had it occurred 2 months before, he would have been 16 and in the juvenile system and probably not facing life in prison as an adult. So he had just turned 17. So he's thinking that I have to do something outrageous, so I'll have a story to tell to fit in with my classmates.
Well, they teased him. He was an honor student, and so, you know, they all had stories to tell. Some sold drugs, different stories, and so he thought by doing something like this that he would have a story to tell that would be like what they had to tell.
So tell me what he told you he did.
He said that he did go to her apartment, and he
Talked to her for about 30
he
minutes.
talked to her for about 30 minutes. He said he left because he changed his mind. He couldn't go through with it. And then after he left, he thought about how much time had passed, that he was going to be late for class. And as I said in the beginning, his intentions was on taking a car. And so when he thought about that, some class that he was late for so many times, and if he was late again, then he would be put out of the class or something to that effect. And so he decided to go back. And when he went back, he said that he did, he gagged her, he tied her up, he made her take her clothes off, he said, for the purpose of him being able to get away. So he left her in the bathroom, and he took her keys and then took her car and some jewelry. And then he was later found.
Now, did he ever admit to any sexual activity with her?
No. No, he said he did not. Now, you had mentioned earlier that he was given life for aggravated sexual assault, but he actually was given 2 concurrent charges, which was he also got 99 years for the aggravated robbery.
So he got 99 years and he got life.
And he got life, yes.
Okay, and so he takes her, he puts her in the bathroom, according to his story, and leaves her in there naked so he would have an opportunity to get away. He goes to her car, he drives off, and tell us what happens next.
Oh, and I didn't mention, he did say that he did have a knife. He said that he showed her a knife, but not, I mean, even in the hearing, it wasn't said that he used the knife in the crime, that he showed her a knife.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so then he was caught driving the car. I think I remember him saying he was driving too slow. He had, when they arrested him, they found her purse in the trunk of the car, and so they had evidence that it was a stolen car. They took him into the police station, and he ended up signing a confession with no lawyer present, with no parent present. The detective that had him to sign the confession told him that if he cooperated, he would see to it that he got a lesser sentence when he went to court.
Okay. And from there, what happened?
Well, when he went to, we ended up having, as Ms. King said, a PSI hearing.
Let's talk about bonding him out. Let's talk about the whole process. Did you bond him out after that?
Well, we couldn't. I didn't have money for a lawyer, and they were talking about, you know what, actually, in the beginning, he wasn't even given a bond. And it was not until kind of recently that I heard that he had a bond of $50,000.
On one of the cases, it was $20,000. I looked that up today. This happened in 1995, so it was a long time ago. All right, so you couldn't afford to bond him out. Did his father offer to help you at all?
His father was deceased.
Oh, his father was deceased by then. Okay.
When we moved to Houston, he was very, very distraught because he was going to get a chance to finally finish out high school in Detroit. And so he was really happy to be able to do that. But I had to leave Houston because ex-husband of mine was trying to kill me.
Oh, my God.
And so he was just really...
You had to leave Houston or Detroit?
I mean, I had to leave Detroit
Okay.
to come to Houston because he was trying to kill me. And so my son was just distraught. I mean, he hated coming to Houston, so he was really kind of rebellious from the beginning.
And that
And
was the
so
10th grade year.
yes,
And this crime occurred his 11th grade or 12th?
well, he was in his last year of high school, and so while we was here, because he didn't like being here, his dad said that I should send him there
Where?
to L.A. And so when he went to L.A., his dad died while he was there.
Oh my God, how'd he die?
A brain aneurysm or something to that effect.
How old was his father? Do you remember?
I really don't. Maybe in his late 40s.
That's pretty young.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so when his dad dies, he has to come back to live
He had
with
to
you in
come
Detroit.
back to live with me here in
Oh,
Houston.
you were in Houston then.
Yeah.
And had you remarried by then?
Yes,
Okay. So he'd gone through a lot of changes.
a lot of changes. Yeah.
Now, when his dad died, was he ever given any psychiatric help?
No.
Do you think he needed it?
Looking back, I'm pretty sure he did.
Right.
Pretty sure he did. He was, what was he, 15 at the time, and I think he was kind of being made to be the man of the house.
But I thought you had a husband.
No, I'm saying in L.A.
Oh, in L.A.
When his dad passed away, he was, I remember that he didn't do much grieving, that he was at that point. Not that he was really told that he had to be the man of the house, but he was kind of put in that position.
Now, man of whose house? Whose was it?
Well, his dad had remarried, so he was with his, I always called her his other mom. She raised him from when me and his father first separated. And so maybe he was about a year
Okay.
or two when we first separated, and so his dad remarried, and his other mom raised him as well.
Gotcha. All right, so he gets back here after his dad dies. He doesn't get any psychiatric treatment. And then he's fitting in with this crowd. And you move 3 times, but he wants to stay and finish at this school. Has he gone to this school all 3 years?
No, he changed schools while we were here in Houston.
So how long had he gone to this last school he wanted to go to? Was it 2 years, 1 year?
1 year.
Just 1 year, okay. All right, so he had started the year off in the fall, and he just wanted to stay in school. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. Interesting. And so during this time is when he picks up this case. I thought when I looked on the computer that he picked up the case in like September of 1995. So had he just started the school?
He picked up the case July.
Oh, it was in July. It was the summertime. Okay. So he had gone the year prior to that school?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what did you do once you couldn't bond him out? What was your next step as his mom?
Well, you're saying this?
Yeah, like, I mean, did you try to hire a lawyer? Did he have a court-appointed lawyer? Because in those days, Judge Poe had 3 lawyers that worked as his court-appointed lawyers that did all of his cases.
No, we hired an attorney, and it was through her that we heard at first that there was no bond.
All right, so everybody's entitled to a bond. But anyway, and he had a bond. But anyway, maybe it was very high, but he had a bond. Now, sometimes they don't have a bond like the first 2 days, but
Okay.
Everybody in Texas is entitled to a bond. The only ones who kind of don't get them are capital murder defendants, and that's only after the state puts on a proof evident hearing, which will show that if the prosecution proceeds with the trial, they'll win. But other than that, everybody's entitled to a bond. Okay. Murder. Nobody's dead in this case, so he was absolutely entitled to a bond. He had no criminal record, so he was absolutely entitled to a bond. So anyway, so the lawyer, how did you go about selecting the lawyer?
She had done some work for my ex-husband, my last husband.
And what type of work? Was it criminal work?
Oh no, it was some minor stuff, tickets or something like that.
Okay. So she goes and gets a traffic ticket lawyer. So Do you think that was a mistake in
Oh,
hindsight?
that was a grave mistake.
And why are you saying that was a mistake?
Well, because she was inexperienced, and she even admitted to that. She said that she had never done a trial like his.
Well, she didn't go to trial anyway.
Well, she had never done a case like his. Um, and
Now, what I'm puzzled about is if the child said he didn't rape her, why didn't she? Why didn't he go to trial? Your son admitted to robbing her,
yes.
but people don't usually get 99 years of life for robbing people. But he said he did not rape her. So why didn't he exercise his constitutional right to go to trial?
We just was unaware, and we just
But
thought,
you knew that they were offering him 50 years, right?
yeah,
The plea bargain was 50 years.
but we just didn't think in a million years that would really stand. I don't know. Coming from Detroit, that just wouldn't have happened.
Could you have handled the truth? If you'd hired an experienced lawyer like me, and I would have said, "Look, ma'am, he's facing a lot of time. A jury or a judge might give him life, or a lot of time. So we've got to go to trial and at least try to show people what happened. You know, if he didn't rape her, we got to go to trial on that. We have to. I mean, otherwise, he's going to get a bunch of time." Because people are afraid of 17-year-olds who commit crimes like raping people and robbing people. They're afraid to put them back in society. So you have to at least fight for the. I mean, he could plead guilty to robbery, but he'd have to plead not guilty to the rape part. Why was that not a consideration?
Well, once again, the money factor. We just thought with all that we had going, which now I know that was nothing. And what I mean by what we had going, that we had letters from all over saying how they were just surprised that he even was in trouble at all, because he wasn't that type of child growing up. He, like I said, with the PSI hearing, it showed that he had never been in trouble, even in school.
Let me stop you for a moment. We have a caller that's called in. I'm ready to take that call. Thank you for calling Truth and Justice with Vivian King. Do you have a question?
Yes. Well, I want to make a comment first. I want to tell you, you're looking gorgeous tonight. I like the little outfit you got on there.
Tracy. Thank you, Tracy.
And I want to say hello to your guests. And what's your name again, ma'am?
Linda Chapman.
Okay, Linda Chapman. Okay. Let me ask you this here. Now, you know, every child loves their parent, every parent loves their child. So
repeat what you said. I didn't hear that.
I say every child loves their parent, every parent loves their child.
Okay.
So what were your expectations? What do you think the punishment should be? You know, if I understand, you know, you said he didn't do the rape. You probably don't believe that, but he the rob. How much time do you think he should have got?
I really can't say how much time I think he would have gotten.
No, should have.
No,
No,
should have
no,
gotten.
no.
Like, what was your expectation? So you know your child did the crime. You're focused on that. You're living that. In your mind, you know he's got to be punished. So you got to say, well, I can see it if he could do this, but not that. You had to have been going over some time in your mind. The plea bargain offer from the prosecutor that your lawyer was bringing you back is they said 50 years. So you know you didn't want him to do 50 years.
Right.
So what Tracy's asking you is, Tracy's been in trouble before. He's a regular watcher of the show.
Okay.
So he's just asking you, as a parent, what did you think the punishment should have been?
I think I was thinking he should have gotten about 5 years.
Well, 5 was the minimum, so you thought he should get 5.
Yes.
And what do you think, Tracy?
Well, no. Okay. So for the rape, you don't think he did it? Did you know the girl? I mean, we don't know all the circumstances around the situation. So.
Well, even it was brought out at the hearing by the prosecutor that they say that he penetrated her with his finger. It was never a question about his penis. So.
And the thing that's interesting about this is the lawyer had him plead guilty to both crimes, knowing he said he didn't do one of them. And in the PSI hearing is a punishment hearing, basically. And usually in a crime like this, you have the complainant testify as to what happened to her and how she thinks he should be punished. What Ms. Chapman is saying is that the complainant never testified. There were
Okay, so
letters, and the letters that she has that she wrote talk about how she was traumatized because she trusted him. She'd be scared of black guys in the future, but she never says he raped her.
was he a first offender? I think I heard y'all mention earlier.
Oh yeah, he was an honor roll student. He'd never been in trouble before. Not
Okay,
as even
so
as a juvenile, because remember he had just turned 17 2 months before this happened.
so just if he just had robbery itself, with just the 2 to 20 or
No, robbery is
I mean,
5 to 99. Robbery
599.
and aggravated
Aggravated.
robbery, because remember he had a knife, so he carried a pocket knife. He rode the bus a lot. So aggravated robbery, any weapon being displayed, and I think he admitted to his mother that he did show her the knife.
Show her. He said he showed her a
He
knife.
showed her the knife. So the issue is, should you get life if you don't stab the person, rape the person, but you traumatize the person? That's why the legislators gave us a range from 5 all the way up to 99 years of life, and the worst crimes is supposed to be 99 years to life. I think what the mom is frustrated about is that she trusted the lawyer, because most people think all lawyers are created equal. As the lawyer got involved in the case more and more, she started saying, "This is over my head." But I'm sure she didn't tell her that at the beginning.
Actually, she
Okay.
did. In the beginning, she did say that I've never done
A rape case
a.
or aggravated robbery.
Was never put like she said that she had never done that type of trial before or hearing.
Okay,
Generally
so
speaking, when people say that, they've never had a trial, period, but they use terms that confuse people. Because if you say, "I've never had a trial like that," most people think, well, you've had another trial, so you ought to be able to do this trial. With most criminal lawyers, she said in her affidavit she'd only done 50 to 75 cases. She probably had never done a trial at all. And so you need to have done 20 or 30 trials, and I mean jury trials from beginning to end, that are misdemeanors, and you kind of go up to felony cases so you can get the experience. She probably had never done a trial ever. She
okay,
had pled a lot of people guilty. You don't really need a lawyer for that. There was no investigation. There was no investigation done, as far as I can tell. All she did was went to court and pled the little boy guilty, basically.
Okay, yeah. I mean, normally that's what most lawyers do. They want to get paid. But anyway, let me say this before I go. Check out your Truth and Justice with Vivian King Facebook page. You got you got about 600 fans right now.
Oh, good. Thank
And,
you, Tracy.
and a lot of people, they participate, so, let me know what you think.
They're participating. Are they watching tonight?
Yeah, I hope so. At least they say they are. I mean, they posting. You got people posting on the page.
Okay, well, have them call in. Give them the number.
All right.
Thank you for
Okay.
calling, Tracy.
Bye.
Yeah, one of the things that we always have to battle with is the mom says no time or the minimum, and then society thinks the extreme. So as a lawyer, even a good lawyer, what do you do? Because say if he went to trial, this is just based on my experience, and say he didn't rape her, but he just robbed her, you can get life for that. And he didn't hurt her. And with all of his witnesses, his character witnesses, that he was incorrigible. In a bad case, the best case scenario jury would have given is 20 years, maybe 30. I'm just telling you that. That's hard to tell someone. That's hard to get someone to pay you, $10,000 or $20,000 and say, even when we go through this process, he still might get 20 or 30 years. That's hard to imagine. However, after it's over, and 20 years, he would have probably already been out because he's done 18.
Right.
Right. So in terms of dollars and cents, then 18 years later, you say, shoot, I should have paid $20,000 then, because at least he'd be out by now. Because once you get life, in 95, I think life was 30 years before you're eligible for parole. Was that 25 years?
And that's what he has.
What is it?
It's 30 years
30,
before
okay,
he's
30
eligible.
years, okay. I didn't check the statute to see what it was in 95, but I remember when it was changed. It used to be 15 years. It was when I first became a lawyer in 92, it was 15 years, and it was changed. So, you always have to know what year they were convicted to know what statute to look at to find out what life is. But life, so he's got to be there 12 more years before he's even eligible for parole.
Correct.
Now he tells his mom he's a 35-year-old virgin. He's been in prison longer than he was alive when he caught this case, And we know psychiatrists say, and like really he should have had a trial. He should have had a psychiatrist testify as to a guy's developmental capacity, because people's brains, they tell us, don't fully develop, especially in boys, until they're about 25. And so look at, even though he was a straight A student, look at his judgment. He took someone's car because he didn't want to walk because he was going to be late for class. Look how immature that is. Now everybody knows that once she reports her car stolen with the license plate, a mature person knows that the car is going to be found. So as soon as, even though all he was thinking about was enough time to escape by making her get naked and get in the closet in the bathroom, he wasn't thinking about the fact that she does know her she does know her license plate number. Even if she doesn't, it's on some of her paperwork, and she can call that in and he's going to get stopped. But that's just immaturity, thinking that. And the problem with the prosecution, especially in the 90s, I can't say that she didn't get raped, because maybe she did. But I know a lot of cases had sexual implications, because they know that really pisses jurors off. I know there were a lot of murders, capital murders, where they had to add that the child jacked off on the person. Something, they made it, more salacious, where it might have been a real murder and robbery, but maybe there really wasn't any sexual activity. So there was always, I know there was a lot of extra things added in. These kind of cases are hard. As a lawyer, especially an old lawyer like me, I don't like them. I don't like taking them, because no one's happy in the end. The complainant's not happy because they want him to do life, because you've messed up my life. So the prosecution has to go for life, because the prosecutor's job is to represent the people. The people here is the complainant. So when Steve Baldesano, or whoever the prosecutor was, it says Steve Baldesano on his paperwork, called the complainant, she said, I want him to do life. He ruined my life. He's black. I'm scared of black people now. I was nice. I let him in my house. I hate black people. I'm traumatized for life. So he has to offer you something big. So then the defense lawyer, listening to you and your son, is saying, I want 5 years. So what do? 5, and the woman saying life. So obviously you got to go to trial. And you got a child saying, I didn't do one of these crimes that I'm being charged with, although the police officer made me sign a confession that the police officer typed up. So you got to go to trial and let the 12 people of Harris County, the jurors, decide what are the real facts, who's telling the truth. You have to have witnesses come in and testify on both sides to the character of the child and the woman. And you have to let the jury decide. A lot of lawyers are scared of that. I would have gone to trial, because I would never plead a child to a judge that could just easily just say life and keep going on about their business. And because once you plead guilty, there's nothing to appeal. But most lawyers will plead you guilty, you get a bunch of time, and then file a notice of appeal, run out of the courtroom, and make you think there's some hope. There's no hope when you said you did it. You understand? In a trial, the person stands up and says, not guilty. The jury finds them guilty. So that's what an appeal is made of. An appeal is the grade card of the judge. The Court of Appeals is looking at the written transcript to see if the judge ruled properly when lawyers were fighting about issues, evidence that comes in, evidence that's excluded, based on the objections that are made. Did the judge rule properly? Appeals are not, did the jury make the right decision? Because the jurors decide. But when you see a trial and you see a lawyer objecting, that's hearsay, because the Constitution says you have a right to confront your accuser. So everybody who says something needs to be in the courtroom. They need to raise their right hand and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so that you can confront them. That's what a criminal trial is. If I get on the witness stand and say, well, John told me that he raped him, well, that's not you confronting your accuser, because you're repeating what someone says, so you can't trust the truth and veracity of that statement. And our founding fathers created a system where the jurors get to look at the person's expression when they're answering these tough questions to determine, are they moving around? Do they look like they're lying? They get to make that determination. So you have to have the person there. A good lawyer that takes a case like this, even though they hate them, they would have to go to trial, so that the child, if he gets life or whatever he gets, he has an opportunity to appeal a process, especially the sexual assault, because he said he didn't do it. And so he would be able to keep it alive. the short answer for me is that I don't think there's anything else he can do. I mean, other than to say that the confession was false and he had ineffective assistance of counsel. I think the lawyer should have withdrawn from the case and said, I'm too inexperienced, and he would not have been given his Sixth Amendment right to effective assistance of counsel if I am forced to remain on this case. Judge Poe would have had to released her from that case. So that's what she did wrong to me, bigger than anything. After she pleads him guilty and there's a hearing, she moves on about her life and just writes some affidavit. I mean, that's really not going to do anything because she shouldn't have gone that far. What most people don't understand on a first case, you have to do everything you can to fight for that first case. And if you can't afford a lawyer, you need to have a court-appointed lawyer. The court-appointed lawyers are experienced. They might not go visit your son in jail. They might not return your phone calls, but they are in that courthouse every day. The judges respect them. Most of them are former prosecutors, and they do know the law. So when you get in battle, you might have two boxers. One boxer might be, what's his name? What's the boxer that lives here in town? George Foreman. He might be out of shape and old, but he still knows how to box. You know, when he did his comeback, he might be old and out of shape. That's like what a court-appointed lawyer might be in some people's eyes. But they can still knock you out because they know the rules of the game. They've been playing the game a long time. They might not be over here training and practicing, meaning they might not be visiting him in jail. Because there's nothing someone can tell you in jail. People want you to visit them, but really there's nothing you can do. Really, the visitation needs to come from the family because your lawyer doesn't love you. Your lawyer, this is business. It's work. So once we get your side of the story, there's really nothing else we can do but go and investigate those facts. Seeing you is just making you happy, but it's not doing anything because she gave her side that's memorialized on some paper. He's going to give his side that we're going to talk about. So what else is there to do other than to wait for your court date and realize your court date is going to come after the other 1,000 people that are already set to have cases before you get arrested. So that's really what you're waiting for is your date to come up. But you can't change the facts. And so no matter how many times I go talk to you, that doesn't change what happened that day. You see what I'm saying?
I do see that.
And so even though you want them to visit, what do you want them to do? You know, the person that needs to visit every week is you. You know, that's your son. You can be the only one that comes say, I love you, I'm with you, I'm here if you get out. Your lawyer's not going to be, it's not a part of your family. You know, they're doing a job for you. So I also always wonder, what is your expectation? Tell me, what is your expectation? If I go see him every week, what can I get different?
Well, I'm in agreement with you now that having gone through what we've gone through, if I had this to do all over again, definitely I would get a court-appointed lawyer, no doubt about it. Just really not knowing the system and just thinking that there's no way possible that he could have gotten the time that he had gotten with what he did, we did a lot of wrong moves. We certainly did a lot of wrong moves. Wish I had it all to do all over again, but don't. And I want to say to those out there that may be going through what we went through back then, definitely consider doing the court-appointed attorney, because
If you can't afford
if you don't
an
have
experienced
money,
attorney.
right? If you don't have money, and that's what I mean.
Right.
Because if I had the money, then definitely I would have tried to get an experienced lawyer.
And understand that all lawyers are not the same. Because a lot of people think that if you do civil or if you do little things, you can do big things. You can't. It's a specialty. And you have to go to a lawyer that specializes in that area.
Exactly. I've learned a lot along the way.
Right. One of the things you wanted to share was you found an article in 2004, and you said you wanted to share that with the viewers, right?
Well, I do want to share this because when my son was arrested, he was really kind of coerced into signing a confession. Of course, it's our word against his that was the case, but...
Let's talk about that for a moment. Where was the coercion in your mind based on what your son told you?
What he told me was that he said something to the effect that if you... it's going to take a while for us to get a lawyer here. It's going to take a while for us to get your parent here. And you don't want us to put you in the cell with those guys over there and, you know, things like that. And so being an inexperienced criminal, you know, you're afraid. And at that age and being a nerd, that's what he that's what he was called. That's why he was trying to have a story to tell like his friends had to tell, because he was teased as being a nerd. He was the honor student. And by the way, still was the honor student even after being incarcerated. He graduated with an associate's summa cum laude. He was the highest of those that was in prison as well as those that were out in the school.
Wow.
Yeah, so youngsters, they need to know. I know it's out of fear that they're in there, and they need to know that there's certain things that you do. And
Well, let me
certain
tell you
things
this.
that you don't.
Sometimes people say this. If he's bad enough to go take a knife and put somebody in the closet or the bathroom and take her car, why would he be afraid to be in jail with other people, other criminals? They don't have no weapons. Everybody's in jail. So if the cops tell you, why would this be coercion to say, if you don't talk to us, we're going to throw you in there with all the other criminals, because they're, you know, they are in a jail. Why? How can you do one and not the other?
He was an inexperienced criminal, bottom line. I always said that. Like I said, we're from Detroit. To drive around in a stolen car, that's not good sense.
Right.
To have her purse in the trunk of the car, that's not good sense.
How long after the crime was he caught driving around? Did he ever make it to school?
Oh, this was maybe a few days later, I think,
Okay.
that he was caught.
Now, why didn't you know he had a car?
He actually was not living with me at the time. He was living with my niece.
Okay.
Because he was being rebellious. My niece, she decided to take him in, and she didn't know. She stayed in an apartment complex. He parked the car somewhere else.
Okay, so she just didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
How old was she at the time?
At the
I mean,
time, I'm thinking maybe
was she in her 20s, 30s?
30s.
Okay, so she was
Yeah.
grown.
30, yeah.
Did she have other children in the house?
Yes.
Okay, well, so didn't the police also, you told me off camera that the police also told him, if you confess to what you did, we will go lenient on you in court. So tell me about that psychological
Yes,
coercion.
they told him something to the effect that we'll see to it that you'll get a lesser sentence when you go to court. And that detective was speaking against him at the hearing.
Wow. So why do you think that guys do wrong and then they believe the police officers? That's always amazing to me.
Who knows? Like I
Because they
said,
know the police officers there to arrest you, so why would anything they say to you
Exactly.
be something that you
Exactly.
believe? It's like, I always wonder, because they'll tell me, well, cops are not supposed to lie, are they? Heck yeah, they're supposed to lie. I mean, they go undercover. Undercover is a lie.
yeah,
I mean, so, you know, if they use those tactics, it's always amazing to me that people think that, you know, that the cops are going to keep their word, like they're the preacher or something, or, you know, like they're God or something like that. It's always interesting to me that people will tell me that, and I'm like, okay, so you let them type down something that you signed, but you didn't make them type down and sign what they told you to say that. I mean, if someone tells me to sign something, I'm gonna tell them no, first of all, and second of all, I'm gonna say, well, this promise that you're making me, let me see you write that down and sign it. I wouldn't say that to be sarcastic. I would just say that. I just wouldn't do what somebody told me. I'd be scared to be in jail. Don't get me wrong. I'd be scared to death. But it's not going to stop. I know they're not going to let me go because their job is to arrest me. So just let me go and get it over with. Take me back. That's what I would do. I mean, I'd be scared. Don't get me wrong.
yes.
I just wouldn't talk to them because I know that they're not going to let me go. I understand the police officer's job is to arrest me, not to let me go. So
Yes.
I'm just trying to figure out why, even if you're 17, why you think a police officer is going to let you go or help you do anything when that's not their job.
I agree. But
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just because I hear it so often. Because another line I hear a lot of is he said that he was going to take my baby mama, my kids from the baby mama, or they don't usually have the kids anyway. The girl does. The teenage girl has the kids, but they're going to take her kids. Really? Did you get them to write that down? Do you really think that they're going to say that out loud? No. But yet you let them tape everything you said. You said what they wanted you to say. I don't, I've never understood that. I mean, the reason why I don't understand it is because 80% of the shows on TV are crime shows. And so they're always talking about you got the right to remain silent.
Right.
They're always showing you interrogation rooms. I mean, that's what's interesting to me because if we didn't have so many TV shows about, Law and Order or CSI or crime shows, I would kind of see our naivete. But it's hard for me to see it when, so many shows on TV.
I get what you're saying.
And the information's out there. Okay, well, let's also talk about the tips that you read and which you would have known when your son got arrested.
Well, this is what he should have known. It says, this is from the Houston Defender, and it was in 2004, and it says, arrested, what do I do? And this is 10 things not to do. It says, don't try to convince the officer of your innocence. It's useless. Don't run. It's highly unlikely a suspect could outrun 10 police cars converging on a block in mere seconds. 3, keep quiet. Anything you say can and probably will be used against you. 4, don't give permission to search anywhere. This is saying that if you allow them to do that, then they will. They need your consent. 5, don't react to searches. If the police are searching your car or home, don't look at the places you wish they wouldn't search. Don't react to questions like, who does this belong to? 6, don't resist arrest. Above all, do not push the police or try to knock their hands away. That would be assaulting an officer, and any slight injury to them will turn your misdemeanor arrest into a felony. 7, keep the smart comments to yourself. Try to resist the temptation to mouth off at the police, even if you have been wrongly arrested. 8, do not believe what the police tell you in order to get you to talk. And that's what we just discussed. That is not what you do. The law permits them to lie to a suspect in order to get him to make admissions. 9, if at home, do not invite the police inside, nor should you step outside. If the police believe you have committed a felony, they usually need an arrest warrant to go into your home to arrest you. And 10, go directly to jail. If you are arrested outside your home, do not accept any offers to let you go inside to get dressed, changed, get a jacket, call your wife, or any other reason. The police will, of course, escort you inside and then search everywhere they please, again, without a warrant. So just because what happened to my son, I just want people to be more aware and teach your children on things not to do if you were to get arrested. As it says, if you're innocent or not.
Right, innocent or not doesn't matter. Because what I've tried to teach on this show is that the police have lawyers. That's the prosecutors, and the prosecution's office is manned 24 hours a day. So they will be constantly consulting with their lawyers, and HPD, the Houston Police Department, has lawyers on staff too. So the prosecutor might say, you might need a confession, or you might need a statement, or go do this. But they might leave the room and consult with them. So it's lawyers on both sides. So it's not fair for a trained police officer to have lawyers to consult, but you're an untrained civilian and you don't have lawyers to consult. There might be a time in which once you hire a lawyer, after you're charged with the crime, that you and your lawyer want to go talk to the prosecution. But you do that with your lawyer so that, everybody's conversation is memorialized. You have a witness. It's not going to be a situation where I'm not going to allow my client to be intimidated and said, if you say this or if you don't do that. A lawyer is not going to allow you to be intimidated, and they're not going to intimidate you in front of a lawyer. They're going to let you just tell the story that you want to tell. A lawyer will also not let a police officer write the statement down. I've had people hire me when the police were investigating rape cases, and I've gone and I typed what I wanted what my client said, and had him sign it, and he didn't get charged with the crime. It was a situation of was it consensual or not. They were at a party and she got high and she cried rape, and he said he didn't rape her. So he told his side of the story. He consulted me. I want to take a lawyer with me. Should I talk to him? I said, if you're innocent, yes. But tell me what happened. I think that you are innocent. I'm not going to let them type it up. Either you write it yourself if you want to give a statement, or you let your lawyer type it up in front of everybody, and then let your client read over it, and then you type it. The one time that's happened, the guy did not get charged. But you have a right to counsel, and they're not telling you that to intimidate you. They're telling you that because the law made them tell you that, and they're just not telling you that the person that they're talking to on the phone or going outside of their office to talk to might just well be their lawyer. That's advising them on how to do it. And you see that on TV shows too. You see the interrogation room and you see the prosecutors looking in. Don't you see that on TV? So that's their lawyer. Thank you for calling Truth and Justice with Vivian King. Please, caller, you're on.
Hello.
Hello.
Interesting topic.
Thank you, sir.
It sounds like the police were really good at soaping a confession. Usually you think of them, they threaten to throw you down the stairs, but this sounds like this policeman was pretty slippery. I just have one question, I guess. And, I understand it was a digital rape. Was there a rape kit?
Oh, absolutely no. There's no evidence of rape that we know of.
Couldn't there be
the prosecution accused him of that, but there was no statement from the complainant of that regard, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
The complainant's statement, written statement in the pre-sentence report, she didn't come testify, which is unusual, but she just talks about how, I guess he befriended her and how she, the missing trust because she stole all of his property, right? And that she couldn't trust black people anymore, and that she couldn't sleep at night. She never mentioned, because you raped me, you took something from me. He still considers himself a 35-year-old virgin. Is that correct?
Correct.
But wasn't he convicted of rape?
He pled guilty to rape. Yeah, he pled guilty to it, and
But
that's part of
no
and that's part of her problem is that he pled guilty to it, and he shouldn't have pled guilty to that. He could have still gotten 99 years for the aggravated robbery, though.
But you saying there was a guilty plea to rape, but the complainant didn't press it? I mean...
Well, I don't know. Let the mom explain.
Well, we did the PSI hearing, so it never did go before a jury. We didn't have a jury trial.
He got charged with aggravated sexual assault, which is a rape, and aggravated robbery. And what he told his mom is that he didn't do one of the crimes, he did do the other. But the inexperienced lawyer, instead of pursuing a trial on the one that he said he was not guilty on, told him, just plead guilty to both of them, and let's just have a hearing with all of your good character witnesses since you've never been in trouble. So she never even investigated that or tried to call the complainant or ask, where's the rape kit? None of that ever came up. If she was raped, remember, she called right away. There would have been a rape kit, so I agree with you. But the mom never heard anything about a rape kit.
Oh, it definitely wasn't a rape
There was no
kit.
rape kit.
But she did try to contact the what did you call it?
Complainant.
I said victim. Okay.
But she didn't have to talk to you. The complainant didn't talk to her?
Right, and once the attorney found out that she did that, he told her if she was to do something like that again, he would see to it that she's disbarred.
Oh no, well they can't do that. You
Was,
have a right
she
to
was
call
so
whoever you
very
want to.
inexperienced.
Yeah, no,
there.
you can call people in a serious case like that. I would never myself contact them because I know that they're upset about it. So why do they want to hear from me? I would just not violate anybody's privacy, but it's not illegal to call. But anyway, the mom is frustrated because she never saw the police report. The lawyer never told her. There was no evidence of rape in the police report. But I agree with you. Apparently, the lady had to say he did something to her.
Haven't you said before, I don't know, maybe it's on important cases like this, it takes a long time to get a police report for the defense?
It does. And it took a long time before they did the PSI, right? The judge is not going to allow them to do a PSI. And a felony, remember, they have to be indicted in 90 days. So the police report has to be done in 90 days. So it was done in 90 days. He was indicted. And I did look up, a lot of the documents aren't there. They're in storage because it was a 95. So I tried to pull that today, but they couldn't get the file to me today. It's actually going to be ready tomorrow because I do everything at the last minute. But yeah, he was in jail for what, about 6 months before the plea?
I think it was about
About
that
6 months, I think, as I recall. So they definitely had a police report. Because in this case, since there was no rape kit or forensic evidence, they would have had a police report probably in a week. The ones that take a long time, caller, are like murders because you have to wait for an autopsy. And, you know, the medical examiner might be a little backed up on murders. And so things that are being gathered slowly, DNA takes a long time. So those kind of cases. But this wasn't a case where there was any allegation of DNA or rape kit. So there was nothing to be gathered.
And this lawyer also said something to the effect that they denied her access to certain evidence.
Yeah,
So
I read
was
the lawyer's
very
file, and she said that,
inexperienced.
yeah, she said they didn't let her see the police report. You know that doesn't make any sense. How can she defend somebody? How can you plead someone guilty if you've never read the police report? So I read the lady's statement. It was a lady lawyer, and she said that the prosecution would only show her 3 pages of the police report and wouldn't show it. So to me, if they didn't show it, it was something exculpatory there, meaning to show he's less blameworthy. I mean, if the woman in the police report said he raped me, he did this to me, why wouldn't you show that to the defense lawyer?
I guess his writ concerned ineffective counsel.
I haven't read it. I'm pulling it to read it. The problem with people in jail, once they get there and they learn, they file their own writ, but they don't realize you can only file 1 writ, and he's already filed 2.
And with the appeal with another lawyer, that is what was claimed, ineffective assistance of counsel, and she even signed a document to that effect.
And it still didn't get overturned.
No.
Because really what he would be asking for is just to let me have my day in court, let me have a new trial. Because he was ill-advised. If you tell someone, what lawyer tells a child to plead guilty to a crime that they say they didn't commit? He said he did the robbery. So if I was his lawyer, he would plead guilty to the robbery, but he'd plead not guilty to the sexual assault. I mean, that's basically the bottom line. And that would have to be proved in court.
Has there been any hearsay evidence of the complainant saying something different?
No, because he pled guilty right up front because the lawyer didn't know what to do. She never investigated it. She never read the police report, according to her own statement. So all she did was plead him guilty and just had 20 people write him character letters, like his assistant principal came and testified to how he never got in trouble, how he was a straight-A student. So everybody testified to how he was a good kid, but there was no guilt-innocence issue. She resolved it by telling the boy to plead guilty. So there was no look for the facts or the truth.
Right, I understand.
The complainant just wrote down how he traumatized her, but she never said in the letter, because we have it here today. She didn't say, because you raped me, I felt unclean and never wanted anybody else to touch me. She never addresses a rape. She just says how she was what did she say, Mama? Say what the lady said. We have 30 seconds, so hurry up.
Okay, I'll hang up. Thank you.
Say it.
Since my victimization on July 3rd at the hand of my son's name, I would never be the same person. I was not only robbed of my possessions, but my sense of security, ambition, control, confidence, and overall well-being was also stripped away from me.
So she never says anything about her sexuality. When she writes the letter to the judge on how she felt and how she was traumatized, she talks about her security and her well-being and her possessions, but never about being sexually assaulted. So anyway, that's our story for the night. I'm getting the cue to wrap this up. This 1 hour that I visit with you every night, every Wednesday night, goes by really quickly, and I will continue to tell your stories. I want to tell your story. So you're welcome to call me at my office or email me. I'm Vivian King. This is Truth and Justice with Vivian King. When the credits roll, my numbers are there, but you can always Google me, Vivian King, Houston attorney, and you can find me. And if you have a story that you want to tell, please remember that I want to tell your story. Good night.
Thank you so much, Ms. King.
You're welcome. You're welcome.